What's up, guys? So, today I happened to come across a video that really made me think about the fact that I really do not know what a little buzzword that I hear a lot actually means. So, I am going to attempt to provide my opinion based on what I have heard. And as a note, the video that inspired this topic, I linked in the descriptions. In the description. So I would suggest that you guys check that out because this is going to get interesting. And the Garuda says, I am getting naked. Awesome! Well, this is going to be either a really good video or a really pitiful one. So let's just dive into it. So, first and foremost, in this one video that is linked in the description, the first question that the reporter goes around asking in a college campus is, do you think that toxic masculinity needs to be addressed? And then everybody, absolutely everybody, said that this is a problem in society that needs to be addressed. And there was a girl in there who says that she has a minor in gender studies. So I would expect for her to be the expert, right? She is going to have an elaborated response and going to offer compelling evidence as to why she says that she agrees that this is a problem in society that needs to be addressed. And then some other person said that it is a problem in society because apparently it is about breaking down girls. And I'm like, well, what does it mean to break down a girl? How do you break down a girl in the workforce? Because I get the feeling in my gut that what you mean by breaking down a girl is actually that women may have a very limited preparation and they are trying to be involved in positions and fields that they really are not prepared for, and they just expect to be allowed in those fields because vagina. And then when stuff does not go well, you try to blame those who have expertise and experience for your failures. But again, that's just my opinion. I do not know. I am not in a field where I can attest to that. But what I have noticed lately is that anytime there is a complaint or there is an argument about, say, women versus men, typically it goes in that direction, which is a woman expects privilege simply because she was born with certain body parts and she is trying to somehow excel in an area where she has not properly prepared herself in. But again, I don't want to just make blank statements, so do not quote me or cite me on that. I do not have any citations, but knowing what's going on and having read so many cases of uh, social justice and whatnot, I get a really strong feeling in my gut that that's what's happening. But anyways, so everyone who was asked the question of does toxic masculinity need to be addressed, everyone had a yes answer, pretty much. I still open a door for females. I am a gentleman. I won't miss the opportunity to check out her buns. Chivalry is alive for me. Well, I'm glad that you still consider those types of things. And I guess if you're being adventurous, then you go for it. But, just don't get yourself into trouble. And then the second question, which I love it, absolutely love it. The best way to determine if someone understands a concept is to ask for them to either teach you, train you, or define what something means. So the next question that the reporter asked was define in your own words what toxic masculinity means. And there was a guy who said that there's absolutely no logic into it. Well, how is it possible for something to exist if there's not going to be any logic to it? What is the point in developing something if there's no logic to it? But whatever. And then someone else said that it could be anything. And I'm like, first we have an answer that goes, there's no logic to it. And then we have an answer that goes, oh, it could be anything. Well, can you expand on that? Can you elaborate on it? What does it mean? For me personally, without really being exposed to what toxic masculinity is and having actually read about it, I want to say that masculinity is being defined as toxic when men continue to be the ones who keep society like glued together. And for some reason, because we keep advancing and men are really good at keeping, what is it, continue to build, maintaining, say, infrastructures and that, and also they tend to remain physically fit and just strong and strong leadership traits. In modern terms, we are looking at that as something that's negative for some reason. Because if you are no longer competitive or you're not doing what it takes to remain competitive, that has to be a bad thing. So, from the way that toxic masculinity is used as a buzzword, I want to say that it is trying to punish men for continue to adapt into the ever-changing progression of humans. And because they are so efficient at it, it is now being considered toxic. And I will expand on that in a minute. I just wanted to, if I would have been asked in that campus what toxic masculinity means to me, I would have said that. I would have said, well, I think that what is traditionally the role of men in society, for some reason, we're trying to say that that is a negative thing now. But, anyways, you don't have to take my word for it. I'll expand on it later. And then, overall, after that question was asked and no one knew how to define something that they say needs to be addressed in society, how can you opine on something that you do not know what it is? What I would have done is I would have said up front, I'm not really sure what it is, but my first impression is what I just told you guys, that I think toxic masculinity means. And then I can ask the person interviewing, am I right or am I wrong? And if am I wrong, can you define it for me? And then I'll let you know what my initial impression is. But to be sure or act like you're sure that you know what you're talking about, I think that is part of the problem in society. Part of the real problem is that we don't want to accept that we could really do better at being informed, but nobody wants to admit ignorance. It's okay if you do not know what these terms are. It's okay to not understand it, because not even modern people know what they're fighting about sometimes. So I think that the problem is that we are accepting things without asking questions. You need to ask questions. Just please ask questions. And then the third question and final question that this person was asking around was, draw the line between toxic masculinity and regular masculinity. So, for me personally, what I understand that masculinity is pretty much what defines a man, what a man does. If I were to define to a child the difference between a man and a woman, well, that's where the gender role situation comes in. For me, men, I tend to associate them with being robust. They are typically in shape. They are typically stronger than me. Like, as a woman, they are stronger than pretty much the average woman. Or, I don't want to just say all women, but it would be pretty safe to say all women. If you're a fit guy, it is a pretty safe assumption that you're going to be stronger than the average woman. And even if you're not perfectly fit, you're still probably more capable of physical stuff than a woman is. And that your strength tends to be greater because that's just the way that you're designed, like your body. It's bigger, it's just stronger, better stamina, etc., etc. And in addition, because you possess those traits, like, you are going to be in charge of protecting the species. Like, between humans, of course, for us to reproduce, we need to have a man and a woman come together, have offspring. Well, the man is going to be the one that provides for the family, protects the family. And on top of that, not only does he supply things and protect the family, he is driven. He is motivated. So, with those traits, strength, motivation, drive, stamina, resistance, robustness, physical fitness, it cannot come as a shock that men tend to be in the best shape to be leaders, to be owners of, say, businesses, be the leaders in the household, be commanders at, say, the military, things like that. For me, a male is more trustworthy in those kinds of positions of power. I don't have anything against women, and I have against women, and I have been accused of being someone who's sexist or even, what is it, misogynistic. And I'm like, no, I want to say that I believe I understand why things are the way they are and why men tend to be in positions of power and why they tend to perform better under certain circumstances than females. But toxic masculinity is taking those traits that I just enumerated and it's trying to exaggerate them with problems that really only may impact a very small percentage of the population. And it's taking those small percentages, small instances, and really amplifying them to sort of generate fear amongst people to suit an agenda. So, to expand on that, it's trying to suggest that men, for example, should not show emotion. And the only acceptable emotion is anger for some reason. Well, men may get angrier because of the hormones that flow through their body. And on top of that, they still will experience emotion. It's just that they do not show them, voice them, dramatize them in the way that females do. I think that it is a good thing that men are being encouraged to discuss their issues because I do believe that there is there is an issue in society to where for some reason we treat guys like you're not supposed to say what's wrong with you or if you're struggling with something because then it's going to be a sign of weakness. Another thing that is associated with toxic masculinity, which is, oh, you cannot show a sign of weakness. We all are human. We all have struggles. We all are not in an advantageous position. So there are some folks who are going to excel at faster rates than others. And I think that's perfectly fine. But I feel like to describe something as toxic masculinity is trying to pick on the very traits that make men like the amazing leaders and builders and protectors, providers that they are. And it's trying to, in a sense, weaken them. Like, what's that term? Beta them. See what I mean? But anyways, I'll continue to expand on that, trust me. So, in addition, it's trying to say that because men tend to excel on certain areas and they just naturally possess skills, if they end up in leadership positions more often than girls, then there has to be something shady going on. There has to be a negative plan, like a plan to what did that person say? Break down girls and deprive them from progressing and opportunities. No, if you are a girl who is fit for all that, you just have to trust me and trust the system in society that you will be recognized for that. You will be put in the position that you need to be for that. If you're competitive enough, you will be granted those positions. But what you're asking for is for you to get an easy pass just because vagina. And that is what I have a problem with. You cannot grant me something when I don't have the credit for it. Like, I don't meet the expectations. I am not in the shape to be given a position, say a position in some job. If I'm unskilled, you should not give it to me because we are trying to build something, make something that's going to work, and you're going to give it to someone who's not prepared. When you give it to someone who's not prepared, that stuff is going to crash, burn down to the ground. That is the opposite of progressing. So I'm not saying that every woman ever out there is absolutely incapable of becoming competitive on certain areas, but if the average tends to favor men, there is a good reason for that. And it's because people have spent hundreds of years studying people, and it's been concluded, proven, tested, and determined that men will excel in some stuff better than women. And guess what? Women benefit from that, especially when you get married. So, why are we having issues these days? See what I mean? But for me personally, I just like to respect everyone who takes the time to become prepared, become educated, and, you know, manifest yourself in whatever it is that you can do. But to try to say that this is a real issue in society, to me, toxic masculinity doesn't really exist. Like, that is just my honest opinion. And the reason I say that is because, again, I feel like this is just trying to keep men from being men. Like, the very thing that made society progress, I feel like that's being attacked right now. And as someone who enjoys the comforts of modern life, that stuff just terrifies me, because some people are really convinced that this is something that's happening. But anyways, toxic masculinity also tries to suggest that men cannot be dominant at anything for some reason, even though women are dominant on some stuff like nurturing, care, etc. So it's like, why is that not under attack, you know? Because we're not ridiculous, we're not insane. That should be understood. And then also, when male traits become intimidating, say, oh, that man is really buff, that man is really strong, that too is under attack, you know? Well, it's not your fault that the way you are built is, if you load up on protein and you pump iron and you work out like crazy, you're going to get big. You know, if you have a good diet and you exercise a lot and challenge yourself to push more, you're going to get big. You're going to turn into a monster. What we describe as a monster, which is actually just male fitness. You know, why can we not celebrate that? But anyways, you guys, that's pretty much all that I have to say on that matter. That is the impression that it gave me. That's what I understood from watching that video, which, for those of you who joined just now, there is a link in the description where I got the idea for this. So yeah, now I'm going to catch up with your comments and see what you guys are saying. Let men be men and women be women. Exactly. Alberto says, hi. Hi. Ladies will always be first, in my opinion, whether it is a burning building or a simple thing like a door. Ladies first. And see, now that you mentioned that, Ruda, isn't that another way that we can prove that society actually loves women and not hates them? Like a lot of people say, like a lot of girls tend to go around saying society just really hates women. Hey, let me make it clear. Western civilization, Western society, I can only opine from that point of view because that's where I was born, that's where I was raised, and that's the only society that I know. Before someone tries to get in the comments and say, oh, have you ever tried living in name of some radical country? And I'm like, no, I don't need to try that because that is not where I belong. Because when someone doesn't know how to argue with your points, they try to pick on something, a stupid little detail. So if I can shoot that down as soon as possible to keep that conversation rolling in a productive manner, I'll do it. But yeah, that's honestly what I think. That's honestly how I feel. I think that something good is under attack. But anyways, let me see what you guys are saying. Toxic masculinity means there is toxic femininity. Yeah. So, for instance, toxic femininity, I would say it's trying to make female traits, just like toxic masculinity, is trying to really exaggerate them. So I have never actually thought about that because nobody ever says that toxic femininity is a problem in society. So until you mentioned that, I never thought about it. But if I were to name examples of what I think toxic femininity may be, I want to say freaking women going around having children by multiple men so that they can tie them up in court with child support, and they can go the rest of their lives without working because they'll get income that's intended for their children, but they're going to spend it on themselves, and then their children end up not getting a good education, being brought up in poor, challenged communities, and then they wonder why their children are good for nothing. And I'm like, well, are you being an influential parent? You are giving an example to your children that you do not want a male in the household. Why? You cannot hang on to a man. Why? That says a lot of bad stuff about you. Just the sole fact that you are making those types of decisions, that says a lot of bad stuff about you. But anyways, again, that's just my opinion. You guys let me know how you feel about anything that I'm saying. I am one of those toxic men who would run into a building on fire and help female and children. Even if I die from the flames, at least my great grandmother will smile for saving females and children. Once again, are women wired to think that way? Maybe if they have training from, let's say, if you make it into being a firefighter, maybe a woman can develop an instinct of putting the entirety of her being in peril for others, whereas men, as protectors, are doing that without thinking about it twice. A female may think about the fact that she has children at home waiting for her, and she would rather not take the risk. I honestly would say this is going to be a completely chicken coward thing for me to say, but I would think about it many, many times before making a decision to put myself in peril, because I don't think I'm physically fit to be able to carry people outside of a burning building. And on top of that, let's be even more critical about what it means to go inside a burning building. You're going to be inhaling toxins. When you inhale that stuff, your physical performance is going to suffer even more. If I am already just about average when it comes to physical fitness, why would I run into a burning building when that is going to guarantee my demise? See what I mean? I'm not saying that I wouldn't try. Like, if it's a child, I am sure that I can carry out a child. But if I am going to just augment the number of casualties, I would rather keep myself out of that. Because if I try to go save someone, maybe I'll end up being someone who needs to be saved. And then a life that could have been saved by, say, a man who goes into a burning building, now he's got to worry about me and the people who he was originally going to save. So because of my foolishness, someone may not make it out of the building. See what I mean? So I don't want to present myself as someone who is completely like selfish, and I wouldn't try to save anybody, but those are the kinds of thoughts that I would have. Am I going to be helping, or am I going to possibly complicate the situation? To me, that is important to consider. But anyways, let's see. But Ruda, you're an awesome guy. Being a man anymore is considered toxic, and only a feminized man will never be accepted by a feminist, masculinized woman. Yeah. So it's like women are trying to take the role of men, which they cannot really execute in the efficient manner that men can, because men. And additionally, when men try to give women whatever it is that they want, now that guy is being accused of being a beta, being weak, and nobody's taking him seriously, and even accusing him of being gay. See what I mean? So tell me, who is the real toxic person in that situation? The person suggesting that there is a problem with men being the way they are, although it's what makes society great, or people are confused. When I think about people in modern days, I think they are confused, and they are trying to prove something that they cannot prove. Like, for instance, these women who try to be all hardcore, what are you trying to prove? I know someone who used to work for delivering money, like armored services, and she did not use a dolly. every time that she would pick up or deliver huge amounts of change. She ended up busting her back, and she is pretty much disabled. And I have not seen her in a long time. So there you go. You messed up yourself physically because you were trying to do what again? Proof that you can push this out without any assistance from a tool or something. You ended up messing yourself physically, to just put on a show. That's crazy to me. Let's see, where am I at? So guys, at any minute I may need to bail, so I'm going to try to catch up with all of you as fast as I can. Women are attempting to turn biological laws upside down, weaponize masculinity. Xamsplaining, I'm adding that to my dictionary. Olga Gorlukovich. God, Metal Gear Solid 2 is an awesome game. Or more accurately, weaponize femininity. I would debate that men get angrier. What I mean by men getting angrier is like, what can I say? Usually when, oh dang, I froze. Usually when there are discussions, like arguments, household arguments, it is often said that the guys end up accused of being angry, and therefore their angry speaks, and that's how they physically lash out at women in cases of domestic violence. That's what I was trying to suggest there. But even that is questionable because men get angry because as humans, they possess that emotion. And me personally, as a woman, I get angry. So anger is just a trait found in humans. So men being accused of showing it more, I think also is that when men get angry, they can have more lethal results. Like, since you guys are stronger, if you cannot control your rage, if you mean to hurt someone, it is guaranteed that whoever you're trying to hurt is going to get hurt because you possess the physical fitness for it, yada, yada, yada. So that's what I was trying to suggest there. But I can see why that would be questioned because it's something that you need to expand on. Hello, John. Gotta say, this issue of toxic masculinity is flatly absurd. Yes, it is. I don't know if you caught me saying that, but to me, toxic masculinity does not exist. It's, in a sense, trying to exaggerate the positive traits of men, trying to find flaws in it, and suggest that it is a bad thing. And I'm like, well, if men are really terrible creatures, I still want to marry one. And I still am interested in dating them. So, anyways. I won't put females on a pedestal, but I cannot ignore that a female gave me life. Yeah, there's no denying that, females are useful. Hello, that's why they exist. But I think it's crazy that if you're trying to take charge, then do it. But do not ask for the rules to be bent and for you to be given advantages just because of your physical makeup. Demonstrate that you can really take charge now. And if you can really take charge for the progression of our species, you will be in charge. But if you cannot demonstrate it or prove it, why do you get upset that things remain the way they are? No, you're not there yet. But anyway, that's just how I envision it. I came from a female. I might sound sexist, but females first. And Ruda attaches $10. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I need to check out them buns though. I would run into a burning building and help females and children first. The men will have to wait. The leftists running for our mainstream society are the toxic ones. Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely. Because it's turned into a form of extremism. Extremism. I can never say that. So, yeah, I think that everyone just needs to take a deep breath and remember how it is that we got here in the first place. So, it's okay for there to be certain amendments. Like, I definitely agree with the fact that we can vote now. But to suggest that this is a society that hates women, it's absolutely absurd because, trust me, women have it nice, okay? Like, yeah, yeah, just I'll make a separate video about that someday. I just need to get my mind together on it. I don't need a flame suit. I won't be able to stand by and find out that women and children are going to die later on. Generally, I think in arguments, women cry and men get angry. The anger is what's called toxic, but being angry is not the same thing as being violent at all. Exactly. It can get out of control when you're angry. Stuff can get out of control, but you're absolutely right. It does not mean that you're going to turn physically violent. If the situation escalates, that's when stuff may get out of control to where that's where it may get physical. But you're right. I have gotten upset. I have gotten angry, and I have never slapped anyone in the face, though I thought that they deserved it. You know, who's being the monster there? Me. But yeah, let's see. There was another part to that. Women cry and men get angry. Yeah, for me personally, when I have been in arguments, I have definitely been the one to cry. And honestly, I was crying out of frustration and anger. But my crying, honestly, it's not something that I even trigger. It just happens. I think it's like a buildup of energy and it just needs to show in some way. Just like whenever you get, well, whenever girls get their days of their month, and sometimes you cry. Sometimes on the days leading up to it, I'm just crying here in bed, snuggling with my pillow, and I don't know what the fuck is wrong. So, pretty much, females are extremely sensitive to emotions, whereas men, they just keep that under control somehow. It's how they're designed. So, I feel that that is what's expressing emotions in such dramatic ways is the right way to go, is the positive thing. So they're trying to instill that into men, but men are like, wait, that doesn't make me happy. That's not the way that I am. If I attempt that, my performance is going to decline, etc., etc. And now women are being offended because they feel like their femininity is what's being attacked and mocked. And I'm like, no, you need to be confident in your femininity. Men love to know that if you're having a bad day, they can do something to make it better. How about if you just embrace that? See what I mean? But anyway, let's see. If society is beginning to hate women, it's because they have gone crazy and over the top calling men horrible. Yep, I agree. Women need to quit playing the victim. Oh my God, yes. The victimhood, especially in those cases of, you know, what I like to call consensual rapes. Because honestly, a lot of these stories, especially the ones where the men get exonerated, that's crazy. So, do you not think that women are figuring out the ins and outs of the system and taking advantage of it? But of course, it is suggested that women cannot do anything wrong. And that is the problem. Women can do things wrong. And they got used to being protected and spoiled, I guess, and given the benefit of the doubt all the time. But now that they're starting to be held accountable, now it's a terrible thing. And now, okay, we are being held accountable, but definitely not as bad as men, even though the crime is the same or very similar. Like, would we all agree that women tend to get away with a lot of things and get lesser punishments? I think so. Let's see. Where am I at? Women do anger me, but I will never lay a finger on a chick, even if she baits me into a kickboxing arena. Yeah, in a sense, I am glad that you're that way because trust me, you're going to mess us up. Like, if we get involved in a fight with a guy, the probability is on your favor that you're definitely going to win that match. So I am never trying to pick a fight with anybody, period. You know? But it's just crazy. I tried to wrap my head around this and I just don't get it because I don't think that way, you know? What can I say? I never try to go out of my way to irritate someone, and if I do, I try to make it right as soon as possible. Right, the crying is an expression of strong emotion. The anger is the same thing, and one of the reasons men get angry like that is because of extreme frustration. Yep. So the way we display our extreme frustration is we cry. The way men express extreme frustration is they get angry. they sound angry. Because I have experienced that and I have been in those situations, that's why I can understand it and explain it. Because no matter how hard you try to deal with things in the best possible way, shit happens. But you know what's good? When you're able to fix it and make up for it. But in order to do that, you have to put aside your pride, stupid pride, and actually listen intently. And a lot of people don't want to do that, especially admission of fault. That seems to be a big sin. Instead of being violent, we might express anger. Exactly. So I always hope that you can get angry, but just not violent. If there's violence, that's a problem. But because of movies and social media depictions, like the discussions that we may have online that are not even real, they tend to be fictional on some occasions. Because television, the things we watch, the music we listen to have become a popular thing, I think the masses simply got brainwashed into believing and having those preconceived notions of each other, like men being violent, when you have not sat down to actually get to know a guy. Like for me, my life changed when I was able to put aside my shyness a little bit and actually talk to guys. And I'm like, wow, guys are awesome. Guys are funny. Guys are so generous and kind and this and that. Whether it is because I'm a girl or not, but I just love seeing how guys protect people and make people happy. A lot of the times, the guys who I know, one of the first things that they tell me is, I always want to make the people around me laugh. I want for people to be happy and have a good time. So, to me, that's a positive thing. But for some reason, I was trying to associate men with being people who are damaging and controlling and harmful. And I'm like, no, I haven't had an experience with a guy who actively tries to destroy my life. Whereas men can name numerous experiences where they got involved with a woman and shit went bad for them. Let's see. Hey, Knight. I'm for equality. If a woman acts like a man, getting in my face and hitting me, she'll get hit like a man. And you see, you're absolutely entitled to it. You have a right to defend yourself. Whether her strikes are like mosquito bites, if you're being physically abused, you have a right to defend yourself and put that person down or knock them out in the name of your safety. You do not need to tolerate being mistreated by anything, anybody. To get angry as a man is now called emotional abuse and emotional manipulation. It's crazy. Also, I feel like I am being Xamsplained and I feel oppressed. That's why I tried to put that warning in the title, because Xamsplaining alert. You know how it goes. I cannot fight anymore. I caught a stroke once. I used to punch with 800, 900 pounds of pressure with one punch. I think I am punching at 500 and 600 pressure now. Still, my heart, my heat for a man is good. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna bail now because I need to be prepared to head out in a few. But thanks so much for listening to me and for hanging out with me. And I'll be sure to expand on this if I find any more info that I feel I neglected in the stream. And yeah, you guys have a good one. I should be back at some point. I'm not going to commit for